Hey, we're here. It's me and Pam. We over here starting some mess. Not really. We're here, as usual, as what we do all the time. We're here going hard for Jonathan, but we had said a few weeks ago that we wanted to. Well, actually, Pam was kind of what gave me the idea to kind of explore further. I had thought about it before, but I never really thought deeply enough about it to pursue it as a topic of discussion. But during the very first Good Morning America snippet session that we did with Dre Mack on the Jonathan Majors interview, she had mentioned, noticing some things way before March 25th, 2023. And I didn't even know about it. I mean, I had seen one still photograph, didn't know what it was connected to, didn't even know that event had occurred. And we were just talking about, there had to be signs, as women, we know when things are not going, the way that they should be going in a relationship. And so there are always signs, and I put in the caption signs and wonders, that, you kind of know things are taking a left turn. And so Pam had mentioned, well, I think it started during the Toronto Film Festival. And I was like, what Toronto Film Festival? Oh, the picture of Jonathan and Grace. I was like, oh, that's where that was. And so she found the video that led to that photograph, and we were like, oh. So then I sat there and I started piecing together a timeline based on testimony, transcripts, things that we just already knew in the public domain, and it mapped out a very clear path to destruction of this relationship. And to me, I'm not speaking for Pam, but for me, it led me to believe that that's when the wheels started turning. I did post content. The first part of the words ain't matching and the math ain't mathing. I did say that she started documenting and upping the ante on the levels of documentation. And so this timeline kind of substantiates that, because I personally feel like she had started in the back of her mind thinking, if this doesn't go well, what is my next step? What is my recourse? What can I possibly, not necessarily, with him ending up in court and being convicted of anything, but just, I'm not leaving easy. I'm not going down easily if he should decide that it's done. All right, so I'm not going to keep rambling. Pam, you have anything to say before we get into it?
I was going to say, because, there's always a lot of questions why the motives behind what people do and why they do it, good, bad, or indifferent. And when you did talk about that there was a recording in court, and I was like, why do people record people? What's really, really going on as to why would you record somebody, and particularly in a very vulnerable moment? So that was a question for me. Why would you record somebody in a vulnerable moment, and what was going on and all those different things? And like you said, when we were talking about that, and we were just trying to get this timeline, from because we were waiting for the verdict, right? Wasn't that the time we were waiting for the verdict to come in?
Do you mean when we established the timeline? No, that was during the ABC News broadcast when we were on for like 3 hours that morning. Yeah, and you showed us on your phone the video that led to that Toronto Film Festival.
The girl here is over the flu, so my brain is a little foggy.
You're fine. I had a sinus infection, so it's
And
been going around. That's why I've been missing for about 2 weeks. But
I got a baby in
I'm
my throat.
back.
So, so yeah. So when I looked at that, when we were talking, something clicked. Like the recording happened in when was it? That was
It
September.
happened the week after that Toronto film, because when you said that and I Googled the date, it was like the last date of the festival was the 18th of September. That
Right.
video / photo was taken on or around the 13th. Recording was done on the 22nd.
Right. Right. Right.
And
So
that was the last time he took her to any of those events.
yeah, that was first in the list.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like, because there's no other picture other
No other
than
pictures. That's the only picture. And based on and we're going to show you that video.
okay.
Based on, I mean, it's more awkward than it is telling of anything, but it if you're looking at it with more context, because I'm the queen of context. If you're looking at it with more context and knowing what you now know, it goes from being awkward to, oh, okay. And I always thought when I saw that picture, my immediate response was, why is she dressed why does she look like she just showed up? Not knowing anything, not knowing this was before March 23rd, 2023. I mean, March 25th, 2023, way before everything. I just was like, oh, he took her out looking like that. But now that we know, the state of the relationship, the things that may have been going on leading up to that day, and then after that day, the behaviors, the constant, having to go away, sit down, chill, relax. It kind of makes sense. We could still be completely wrong, but it makes sense, So, that's kind of like where we're going. Hey, Earl. Let me see. Am I able to show this? Okay. Yeah. He says, I think the ultimate payback for Jabbari is not only a massive lawsuit, but also Jonathan's rebound as a successful actor. He's lost too much. She's never going to find a man on his level. Yeah, she definitely, that was dumb luck on her behalf, because I'm a firm believer that Jonathan is just a very trusting person. He's a very kind person, separate and apart from a toxic relationship. I'm just talking about an everyday person you run into at Walmart. Hey, EC3. I just think that because of that, he does not have the what do you call it, Pam, when you kind of get that
complete discernment of Snoop Dogg says that you got to they talk about you have to learn your person. And I think sometimes some of us who do we like what we like, and then we fall in love with what we like. Sometimes the rose-colored glasses come up, and things are actually red flags. We perceive them to just be flaws. Just because, like I said, my mom always told me, if a man does not child, foggy mind, not his flaws. Everybody has flaws, but if he does not, if you're, what is that word, mama?
My mama ain't telling me nothing, so I got.
She would talk about it'll come to me, but there is a word for that negotiable, your non-negotiables. If he meets you, then that relationship has to end. So in other words, because when I look at Jonathan, he's a quirky dresser. That's to me, for me, I'm gonna say that's if anything, that's not a non-negotiable. That's just a flaw. That's just part of his personality. We could deal with that.
It's different, it's not killing me either way. I could take it or leave it. It's not.
When you put up the rose-colored glasses, you assume non-negotiables in flaw are flaws when they're not. They're non-negotiables.
They're non-negotiables, right?
Sometimes what gets into things, and men and women think different. most men will be in a relationship and it could be going to hell in a handbasket, but they will stay in that relationship because for men, being in a relationship is I don't want to say it's a badge of honor, but that's part of what they believe is manhood.
Right.
Taking care of their, they always talk about providing and protecting and their children and things like that. So sometimes in their heads, sometimes now the men in the chat, y'all get in here and you let me know if I'm speaking out of turn because I don't want to speak out of turn for anybody. But they will stay in relationships because of the fact that it is a relationship. And a lot of times you don't want to be lonely. I can just imagine being someone on his level, doing all these things that you're doing, and not really having your crew.
Anyone to share it with, or that you
Right.
feel safe sharing it with. So,
So
you kind of pick at the low hanging fruit. Okay, well, let me stick with someone in my industry. So at least that way, I don't have to worry if this person is just, with me because I have money, or only likes me because they know I'm doing this, that, or the third. They're here
and
because
you
they're here because we work together.
Yeah, and you can tell just on some, because I know we say some off the cuff stuff because we support him, but you can just tell because they're both artsy types of people, so they can understand that artsy type of
Right.
language and movement and dance and act.
And
So
right.
they understood those things because that would have been the draw. But then there were things that were going on that was that for each of them was not
compatible or conducive to a healthy relationship
for that relationship, particularly
Right.
if you're having to move, and then there are time periods when you are apart, but you want to stay
time zone differences
and all those. What's that?
Remar, he says, I hear it all the time, Pam. I go to a young adults men's life group at my church. That's the first thing that comes up is relationship talk. You're saying, Remar, in terms of what? Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and I think and I know Pam talks a lot about this gender war stuff. I absolutely cannot stand it. It turns my stomach. Like I literally get a guttural reaction whenever I see all of that gender war nonsense. And I think part of that is the assumption that men don't have the same feelings that women have. Men don't have the same needs that women have. And because of that, their feelings, their desires are being disregarded and disrespected in favor of the narrative that no matter what, no matter who, you're supposed to just be able to provide, and that's your only purpose, and Corey, it's probably a sense of security. Anybody that I noticed that most men that have close relationships with it could go both ways. Right. Men that have codependency issues with their moms or like mommy issues, they tend to look for another mother in the women that they choose. Obviously, this wasn't the case because this was nowhere near mother quality that he chose. And then you have men that are have really good relationships with their moms. And because of that, they just want to be in a relationship because they respect women so much. They love women so much. They appreciate the role that a woman could have in their life. And so because of that, sometimes their guard is down. They don't necessarily, like Pam mentioned, they tend to, ignore the non-negotiables, the veil, the rose-colored glasses go on. If the person's your type, okay, they're my type. They speak well, they look well, and then you start finding things out, and you're like, okay, well, I can kind of fix that. Women do it too, know. Hey, Frankenstein. Women do it too. We do it more often than not. But again, we don't ever give men credit for having the same feelings that we have. And the same
socialized that way. Women are socialized to be because of a lot of people about women is that we're nurturers, and that
Mhm.
because we're nurturers, we are looking for those that love, that security, that thing like that. We're socialized almost. I'm not saying self-centered, but we're socialized that we got to get this done, and we got to get this done, and so it's all about what not what we want, but how we are moving in that space, because
Mhm.
we want to make sure if we're in a space and if we're in a relationship, we need to know that that relationship is secure. We need to know that that relationship is ours. We take complete and utter ownership of that
Mhm.
relationship. And because of that, we have feelings, and we express ourselves more through our feelings than more so, okay, ABCD has to be done. That's why I said when men and women get into conversations, when you hear these people on these gender wars, you'll hear women talking, and always say, women's brains move so much quicker. We could go through 9 different subjects about something. Multitask. That's how we are. We have to multitask. We got to get all this stuff done. We'll go through 9 different conversations, and the guy is still on that first one. And he's like, guys will say, they're not talking logical. We are. It's just that
Mhm.
we're moving through conversations and like that. I've
Mhm.
always noticed that men that have multiple sisters, they can move a little bit quicker, not as quickly, but they can move with the women through the multiple
Mhm.
conversations, kind of figure out, and they'll able to say, okay, hold on, stop. We were talking about ABCD over here. I never did get clarity about what happened on ABCD. But if you're someone that
Mhm.
grew up and your mom babied you, or your mom, did all this other stuff, it's hard for you to do it because you're used to a woman doing stuff for you.
Right, right. And you don't have those critical thinking skills, those problem solving skills. But also, Jonathan has an older sister too, so I think that helped. And he loves his sister to death. At least two significant interviews that he did where he talked about her at length.
I
So I
remember
think
that one interview he did, and she had called. I remember something about he was talking
he
about
said
that.
they cried because she called because she saw him in 3 different trailers during one movie that, yeah. And yeah, and he talked about her at length on another interview that he did about Quantum Mania when he was in London, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken. And he talked about her then and how he just wants to make her proud. And so that's significant for me because that speaks to um that that want to love a woman, that's not your mom or your sister. um, yeah, Corey, right. And I mean, and if your sisters are good women, because again, a boy's first love is his mom.
Girls.
That woman that raised you is the woman that sets the bar for how you see other women, how you treat other women. Obviously, barring any developmental milestones, because obviously everybody, as a teen or early adult, you have your things where you're not the best girlfriend or the best boyfriend, and you might not say the right thing. But that's
Right.
just coming from a developmental standpoint, a maturity standpoint. But the
Maturity.
main thing is you still want that. You want that love, you want that relationship, you want to be a provider, however that looks. Not necessarily financially, but just that male figure in the relationship.
I am so glad you said that. You said that because I want men to understand and hear when a woman says that she wants a provider, it's not about just money standpoint. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's just being there and standing firm in the word that you have spoken. If you say
Mhm.
you're going to do something and you do
Do
what
it.
you say, that's
Right.
providing, because what you're providing is safety. I can feel
Safety.
in
Yeah.
you because you said what you said you were going to do, and you met what you said that you were going to do. So I
Yeah.
want y'all to understand that when women say that we want you to provide and protect and all these different things, it has so much more to do
Nothing.
out
Right.
here working 17, 18 jobs. She don't want you to work 17, 18 jobs. She doesn't really
No.
want you to work 17, 18 jobs. If she has a career and she's working, that's fine. She's working. She just needs for you to provide that stability, that safety. And when men
Mhm.
say, well, she come, I need for talk. Sometimes you have to plan and schedule those safe spaces. That's something my mother taught me. You got to
Mhm.
plan and schedule those safety. Just like you plan and schedule to watch the Chiefs and the Ravens play, you got to plan a time that you sit with your wife, or you sit with your girlfriend, or you sit with your boyfriend, you sit with your husband, and y'all have a
Mhm.
conversation.
Have a
because
conversation.
bridges and the things about things, it's all about relating to each other. It's not
Right.
about who's bag and who's got all this money to spend and take me to this really
Right.
expensive, but
And what
it's about
restaurants I'm not going to, and how much this ring has to cost, and this, that, and the third. Like, and we're grown women. You know, I can't speak for the ones that regress into all this Gen Z nonsense, because there are plenty of women in their 50s and 60s talking this craziness too. So, I mean, it's not just limited to Gen Z and younger Gen X, not Gen Y, but I'm in Gen X, I think. Sometimes I'm millennial. It
there's
just depends on the day.
a
Huh? Hmm?
silent generation. They're baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and Generation Alpha.
Okay, the alphas, they must be just being born. Lord, I don't even want to know. But it
Generation
depends on the chart. I'm either a millennial or an Xer. I don't know. I'm like right on the cusp. But there
Generation
are
X.
some of us that are still we kind of whacked in the brain.
Yeah.
But for the
Generation
most
X.
part,
I was saying Generation X ends in 1980 or 1981. So anybody 82 till about 94.
okay, so then I'm in X then. I read one that tried to make me a millennial, and I almost had a heart attack. I was like, "Oh Lord, no! I don't want to be them."
It's about 82 to about 94-ish. You're millennials.
That's millennial. Okay, so then I'm not in that group. Then
Yeah.
I'm at the tail. I'm at the tail end of the Xers. But we just want you. I mean, and these are grown women talking. Okay, we're grown women. We're not, I got a little bit of lash on, but that's because my eyes are really small. But I have on no makeup. I have on lip gloss, some lashes that are going to get ripped off as soon as I end this stream. I just put these braids in because, but other than that, us natural, we came as we were born, Black women are not after your pockets. Why? Because we don't have $1,000 a month budgets on our hair, nails, and makeup. We're just who we are, and like she said, being a provider is not just financial. It's emotional, it's psychological, it's physical, that safety, that feeling safe, that feeling loved, that having someone to talk to, that, you're my friend, before anything else. If tomorrow we should lose all of our limbs, can we still get along? Can we still enjoy each other? That's what being a provider is. Now, obviously, you got to keep the lights on. We're not talking about living on love like Florida and James. Okay, we're talking within reason. Everybody has to pull their weight, but at the same time, you should not just feel like anytime you go on a date that you have to always have some kind of long resume of what you can and can't do. And if you ever feel that way, then that's not the person for you. And just don't waste your time. Let me get this super chat real quick from Zach. Ken says already. Did I say that right? Oh Lord, that escalated quickly. He said he was bracing for a jail sentence. He's fascinated to see the blowback toward the judge if so. I'm not outspoken, but I will be if that happens. God forbid that does not happen. I mean, God forbid that does happen. I plan to go on a Monday night to be there Tuesday, assuming that it's still even happening. I've been trying to figure out what's going on with the appeal. And I can't find anything. So
I'm saying that's one of my oldest subscribers.
So if indeed the sentencing is on the day and time that it's supposed to be, because as we noticed historically, they reschedule stuff, and obviously the media doesn't publish it until after it's rescheduled, but I'm positive that there's a way to find out before they reschedule it that it's rescheduled. Jazz, I hope not. I was talking to Kirby today, and misdemeanors in New York, you can actually appeal the conviction. You don't have to wait until sentencing to appeal. So I'm hoping they don't wait until sentencing, because if, heaven forbid, Zach is correct and the corruption just keeps getting deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole, they will try to make an example out of Jonathan. And I'm just really hoping that tomorrow, when I, pursue another resource, I can find out for sure if the appeal was filed and if there's a possibility of them staying or postponing the sentencing in lieu of whatever the decision is on the appeal. Because while Zach should be 150% incorrect in his estimation, just knowing what we're dealing with, it's a crapshoot, and it's unfortunate that we should even be having this conversation. Let's get a couple of these back on topic, because you just made me depressed, Zach, but you paid for it, so thanks. Marsha Shaw, she said, sometimes we tend to be not realistic in seeing people for who and where they are. Instead, we hope for what we expect that person to become, and that hope may never come. And that's a fact. I saw a couple of quotes on social media over the past year. One of them said, "I'm not interested in potential. You need to come already potentied." And then another one said, "Potential is literally something, it doesn't exist. It's basically what we expect out of someone else." Exactly. And so that's why you end up disappointed, because you should never date potential. I learned that older, at trial and error. Jonathan said himself, he hasn't had many relationships, and at his age, I would guess not. And being the type of
average. I mean, again, when you listen to all these gender wars and things like that, now, hear me well. I know y'all have been in a lot of panties and a lot of drawers, but that does not make a relationship.
No, and that's not a relationship.
A lot of us have not been in very clear-cut relationships with each other. So, I mean, even in your, at 30, a lot of us can say, I've had like three or four boyfriends or such and such and such and such.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have that many relationships because, like I said, I'm a person, I love too deeply. So I cannot afford to have too many people in my circle. My circle is small. My friends, my friend circle is small. My date is small because of the fact that how I am. Because again, one of the little gems I'm going to impart to you all is always, always, always. Now, I'm saying this from someone who had to learn this the hard way. Mm-hmm. Always be authentically who you are, not who other folks think you ought to be. You be authentically who you are. And remember, I told you the lessons that my father taught me. And that second lesson is birds of a feather flock together. Until you know better, when you know better, you fly west. And that's what I mean by being authentically who you are. When you're around people that don't nurture who you authentically are, then that's that flock you need to fly away from and go find your new flock. And that is what's so important, I think. And if you are a younger person, that's so very important. Stop. If you know that you are nerdy and you love to read books and comic books and watch Marvel movies and stuff like that, gravitate to people who do that. Gravitate to people who do that. Stop trying to be out here with the hot girls and the hot girl summers, and stop trying to be out here with the with the what you call what do men call that? Flirty men or whatever it is, machismo and all
friendly, that. Right.
Don't try to hang in circles. Stick to those rivers and lakes that you are used to, and you will only know that when you understand and you be your authentic self. If you're with somebody that can't accept or nurture who you are authentically, that is not the person you need to. And stop believing people telling you have to stay in these relationships for the sake of staying in a relationship. And I'm going to circle this back to Mr. Majors about staying in a relationship for the sake of staying in a relationship. Go ahead and seek those people that accept you who you are, your flaws, and authentically who you are.
And the thing too is, and this is again because I think there's a few younger guys in this chat, like 20s, early 30s, or whatever. You guys have to understand, because you hear a lot about women putting men in a friend zone, and a lot of men get resentful of that because they're like, I'm like the perfect guy. Why won't she fall in love with me? Why doesn't she see me as the person that could be the one for her? I see that a lot. And this is for men and women alike. People can be there for you. People can support you, love you, give you what you need, and of course, all the things, all the good things that wives and husbands or wife like or husband like people give you, and not have to be in a relationship with you. And and that's fine. That's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay to have someone by your side through your trials and tribulations and not have to be in a relationship with them. Because I think too that complicates things when everything just everything slows down, and all the theatrics, the curtains close and the lights go off, and okay, we don't have to be at a 10 anymore. And then you start to realize, okay, well, now the crisis is done. What do we do now? Oh, we're friends, and we're good as friends. That's okay. That's totally okay. Okay, so LL confirmed that I am a late model Gen X, so that's good. Monica share, that's what I thought too. I'm still checking. Like I said, I'm going to check another resource tomorrow, because I had a problem with one of my like, we have things like Westlaw and Pacer and things like that legal professionals use. And one of my things was down, and I had to email tech support. So hopefully I can get in it tomorrow. But we're going to try to stay focused on this topic, though, because we're already like 32 minutes in, and we haven't even started talking about that yet, because we're over here playing, Dr. Phil, Dr. Ruth, Oprah, and everybody else. But I mean, it's worth talking about. This is why, I decided to go live today. This is my first time going live, just so you know. And yes, please hit the like button. I always forget that. If you're on my stream, hit like. If you're on Pam's stream, hit like, because we'll have like 800 viewers and 20 likes. Like, please. So if we have 32 right now, we should have 32 likes on each of our YouTube channels. And yes, Wonder Woman, it was very weird. I thank you. I don't know if anybody's contacted him privately, so we can't speak on that. But considering that Anthony Mackie said something, and from what I understand, they don't have necessarily a relationship, but then the people that he does have a relationship with didn't say anything, I found that a little weird. But that's none of my business either way. And me, I'm very outspoken. I said what I said, and that's literally that'll probably be on my gravestone when I go to glory. I said what I said, and I'm going to stand by what I said. But that's me. Everybody's not like me. Everybody's not willing to take an L for somebody else.
Yeah, and I was just to say, because I think at first I was reading too much into it, and then after I have to sit down, and I think a lot of times when we look over there at Hollywood, it is survival of the fittest. And particularly, Hollywood is not as big as we think it is. And then Black Hollywood is not that big in itself. Right. It's smaller. So shout out to Anthony Mackie for him saying something.
Exactly.
We don't know what was said in private to him. I am of the belief that those people that do support him, and they probably could not support him publicly, because how some fan bases are.
Oh yeah, and it's like like you said, birds of a feather, or show me who your friends are, and I'll show you who you are. Even though he's exactly who he was before this trial, which is a good person that just got caught up in nonsense with a nonsense human. So
let's go to the power. because you know I love a
Yeah. Because Pam, like, yeah, exactly. I'm with you because we could go all day. Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's kind of like an extension of the plantation mentality, right? Where there's only but so much room at the table, and you better not say anything else. You will end up back in the field. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like by design, and it's unfortunate, but that's kind of like where they find themselves a lot of times. All right, so we're talking about the ticking timeline. That was the topic of discussion, the countdown to the demise of the Majors-Jabbari relationship. So there are some important observations that Pam made that led me to kind of start constructing this timeline based on what I had already seen and heard in the courtroom. And then it kind of went back even further or coincided with some of the dates that had already, been exposed. And I was like, oh, okay. So the timeline is these are the major hints, right? Pun intended. So September 8th through the 18th was the Toronto Film Festival, okay? So before I even go any further into this timeline, Pam had found this video that I'm going to share with you guys relating to that particular event, okay? That event is the event that led to the
Coretta Scott King
that whole. So only a few days after this, I want to say about if the timestamp is correct, this particular red carpet situation happened on or about September 13th. The Coretta Scott recording and the incident with her coming home drunk from the pub and the text message and the throwing her stuff out, that all happened on or around September 22nd. So barely 10 days after this red carpet situation, you got the text message, the Coretta Scott recording, the testimony from her that he kicked her out and she left. Okay. So just watch it, and then we'll kind of, if you want to say in the comments what you saw, and then Pam will give her take, and I'll give my take on what I think was going on with the context of knowing everything else now. Now, keep your eyes trained. So this is Joe Jonas being interviewed. Keep your eyes trained to, I guess, your left of the screen behind him.
Is it on screen?
Absolutely. Definitely, these guys became some of my best friends very quickly. They're phenomenal people, great actors. I learned so much from them. I mean, to be in the same room and to be a part of a project like this is what you want. That's what it's all about.
Hello, Jonathan. How you doing?
What's up, girl?
Just chilling. Just a little devotion going on. How are you feeling?
I feel like $1 million. Really calm. Really just full of gratitude. We saw you guys earlier today, and you saw how much Joey, and I think I'm the person that called him Joey, but Joe Jonas and Glenn Powell. There's a real love between us, and to take that love and to take that hard work that we all have, and the piece of art we've made with our brother JD, and I bring it here. I mean, it feels great. So I'm feeling really, really, really good.
All right, so I'm gonna go back real quick because it was easy to miss. Now, again, train your eyes to where these two people are standing in the white and the green. That's where Jonathan and Grace are going to be standing. Now, I'm gonna play it again, and I want you to watch his hands when she kind of backs up to take the picture and grabs his hand. Watch his hand, right? And then also watch when he comes up to this lady and before he goes, "What's up, girl?" His eyes darting back and forth like he's watching his back. Okay? Watching his back in the sense of, "Oh boy, is she behind me?" kind of thing. All right? So watch now, just look at this again and just look at Jonathan's hands.
Is it on screen?
Absolutely. Definitely, these guys became some of my best friends very quickly. They're phenomenal people, great actors. I learned so much from them. I mean, to be in the same room and to be a part of a project like this is what you want. That's what it's all about.
Hello, Jonathan. How you doing?
What's up, girl?
You know, just chilling. Just a little devotion going on. How are you feeling?
I feel like $1 million. Really calm. Really just full of gratitude.
All right. So anybody peep the hand? You peeped how he threw her hand off to the side? Like, all right, out of here. You're done. No, I mean, that's not funny because I'm laughing because I'm goofy. I laugh at everything.
You know, like I told you, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying, like I said before, you know, body language is everything. When we were talking about that day about throwing things off the table and talking about the Coretta Scott King and what I need and stuff like that, that body language was telling me that there was something, I don't know what day that was. If I'm going to make the assumption that this was like maybe the 16th or the 17th, I don't know exactly what day they showed Devotion at the Toronto Film Festival,
Right.
but that body language looked like they were having uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable. Now, if you're just going to look at it, oh, well, you know, he was trying to hide that white girl. No, it looked like they were having some sort of, it seemed like there may have been some sort of a maybe like, I'm not going to say a fight, but a disagreement or something. And she was making sure that, again, you remember how I talked about earlier, how we like to be in a relationship when we want to make it ours and it be ours. She was staking her claim. And he was like, oh, you know, wait a minute, I'm working. This is basically him working. But she was making it a point because you saw that little stutter step because she was out of the way. She jumped into the step. But I also want you to notice the arm placement, how she, that when because he was moving his hand like this, like, you know, like, but she clasped his hand. And then you notice how she took that other hand and she wrapped it around his arm. You remember when they got out of the car the first time, that's the same way she clasped his hand and grabbed his arm and stuff when he had to, and then run down the street like a Forrest Gump. But that's that same situation. And you see his face. Look at his face. You can tell these two people are in two separate, they're in the same relationship, but they're in two separate spaces, head spaces about this relationship.
Oh yeah. And then just by how she showed up, look at his face. And again, I saw this picture and I didn't think anything of it. But then once I saw the video and how right after this picture, he kind of wrung her hand off of his hand. I mean, you know how you wring your hand, like kind of like that. He like wrung his hand away from her hand after they took the picture. Right. And I think we mentioned also that when you brought this up, that given now the context of how the relationship went and the drinking and the wild behavior, the way she's dressed with no underwear underneath this outfit, it looks like it's his clothes. Her hair is not done, no makeup. It seems to me like he probably was like, stay home, and she forced her way there. Like one of those things like, well, I'm coming anyway. He might have even left her and she might have followed him. Or again, he's ready to go and she just hops in the car and it's kind of like, all right, I gotta get there. I don't have time to be playing these games. And just let it be. But you see when he walked up to the reporter, he's kind of looking behind him and, you know, his face was kind of like, damn. Like he did kind of like a damn and then looked, you know, behind him, I guess, to make sure she wasn't standing there and trying to be part of that too. You know, so, you know, we could totally be reading way too much into this. Exactly. But been there, done that, wore the t-shirt. You know, we've all either been on the receiving end of this kind of behavior, whether it be a boyfriend or somebody that we want to be our boyfriend, high school, middle school, you know, that kind of thing, or we've dished that kind of behavior out. I've had a couple of bugaboo guys that I'm like, yo, I'm not interested in you, you know, and they're trying to hold your hand or trying to hold your waist and you just kind of like you know, wrestling yourself away from them, you know, so you know the body language of somebody that's not really interested in being around you, right? Let me see some of these. Right, Jazz. But the thing is, because at this point, all the cameras were already firing. So how do you explain letting her just keep walking by? And I'm positive somebody was like, well, Jonathan, let's get a picture. And he was just kind of like, all right, just come on, just take the picture. But you see, as soon as they take the picture, he wrings her hand off of his hand and kind of, smiles because, the cameras are still going. But he kind of smiles and says, all right, out of here. You know what I mean? So, that's what I got. And I saw it a few different times. Let's see. Yeah, so, and you can see it. I actually posted, if I'm not mistaken, I think I posted the video under my community section a few weeks ago. So you can watch it again on your own time in the community section if it's there. But yeah, so that was like the first red flag. So let's go back to the timeline. All right, so September 22nd, I'm guesstimating it was about between 7 and 9 days after that Toronto Film Festival thing. The only reason why I'm saying September 13th is because everything that I searched relating to that video said September 13th. It could have been, like Pam said, the 17th or 18th. I don't know. But it was obviously right before the incident where she gets drunk. He lectures her about that, where the text messages happen about the, needing stronger painkillers and, his calling himself a monster. There's also testimony saying that, he threw all her stuff out and told her to leave and she left. So that, to me, was the first official breakup. Then another little tidbit comes out from someone on Twitter. She actually shared the tweet where he said that he's very single, barely 3 weeks after the drunken Pubgate situation.
Okay.
So this is the tweet. This was the reporter from Men's Health magazine. The one where he has the dog around his neck, that whole thing, and he's getting out of I think that's the one. He's getting out of the pool, glistening and all of that. After that interview, apparently he followed up with Clover Hope, who's the reporter on that particular article, and said that he's very single. This was October 11, 2022, on Twitter. Grace had to have seen that. The whole world saw that. Right? I didn't see it because, I wasn't on Twitter. I mean, I've had my Twitter account for over a decade, but I don't frequent Twitter. This is the most I've ever used Twitter in my life because it's just too much going on and not enough of what I care about going on. So I definitely didn't see it. But everybody that's been on Twitter, the whole time and that followed him or followed Men's Health saw it. And I'm sure Grace saw it.
Right.
Or people connected to Grace saw it.
And let me
Mhm.
ask this question real quick, because that's October 11th. So that means that the September 22nd issue, then there's the taping of the argument. So, and then I remember saying that there was the text message. So the text messages came right after this.
All the September. So let's just say September 22nd, September 23rd. I'd have to go back to the transcript to get the exact number of hours that this whole blowout transpired on. I'm saying September 22nd because that's the date of the text. September 22nd is the date of that text that got released, that we didn't want to have released. The incident happened the day before. So I'm guessing September 21st was when she came home drunk with the trainer, recorded him saying all the Coretta Scott King stuff. Then she says the next morning, she went out for a walk at a park near the house that they were staying at. He met her at the park, allegedly took out her AirPods and stepped on them. When they got back to the house, that's when he was like, get out, basically, and was throwing her stuff out, like, you got to go. And she left. And she testified that they had not spoke for a couple of weeks after that. So that math is mathing because from the 22nd to the 11th, that's about 3 weeks. when he said that he was single. So I don't know how she weaseled her way back in, but she did. No, they met.
The
Okay,
year before.
so they met in 2021 of August. So this was a full year into the relationship by the time the September 22nd incident happened. So they met a year and a month, let's say, before these two September incidents, and then the October where he said he was very single. Okay. So they were a full year in at this point. So then let me go back real quick to where the defense got her to admit that she was not invited to subsequent award shows. So that's why I said I believe that she wasn't invited to this one either. But she somehow strong-armed her way into it. And hence the reason why she was looking crazy and why he was looking like he didn't really want her there, but he had to play nice for the camera. And that's human nature. That has nothing to do with him, being fake or having two different personalities. Anybody, all of us, would do exactly what he did. You have 120 cameras firing at you. You're a celebrity. You're not going to sit there and air your dirty laundry on a red carpet. So that was totally expected behavior to me. But like I said, I noticed him wringing her hand off of his as soon as that picture got taken.
You know what? As I'm reading this, I'm starting to think, because he talked on an interview where he drove from New York to Utah for this Sundance, for that Sundance film festival. He drove with the dogs.
With the dogs.
So I am wondering and curious when he did that, because that was when? That was in February, wasn't it?
Sundance was, hold on, let me get actually I can go to the timeline real quick. Okay, so Sundance was, Toronto was September 8th to the 18th. Sundance was January 19th to the 29th.
Right.
January 13th is when she started confiding in his manager and business partners.
Yeah. So you remember that they because I'm making the assumption that between October and December, somewhere in there, they were broken up, because I think she testified that they spent Christmas together, right?
Mm-hmm. Christmas and New Year's with her family or whatever, and then Sundance, she was not invited, and then the Academy Awards was about 10 days, about 2 weeks before the incident, the actual incident. So, so here's where she's questioned about the Sundance Film Festival for Magazine Dreams. Priya asked her, in fact, you wanted to go with him to that festival, correct? And I can tell you, because I saw it for myself. She replied, well, that was the plan, like that. That's how she said it. That was the plan. Yeah. Now, mind you, this is a British woman. Everything else she said thus far was very proper. Yes, no, yes, yeah. That was the plan. Yeah. So that gave me a feeling that she was resentful that she didn't get to go there. And then we go into, well, you're aware that Mr. Majors presented at the Oscars this year it was actually March. And she goes, February, correct? And then the prosecution says objection, again, as to relevance, because I think Priya was going to get into her also not being invited to that either. Basically, to kind of establish that you kind of knew that your days were numbered.
Not only that he didn't trust her behaviors,
that as well.
Go into these settings, and like I said, are some red flags and things like that with these rose-colored glasses we don't see. and
Mm-hmm.
already your drinking has been established on a couple of occasions in September, and I think whenever that Los Angeles incident happened, that had
was
been
July of 2022.
all right. So that has been established that you're unpredictable in a situation like this, when especially if you've had a few drinks in your thing, and he didn't want to chance a situation.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so they did allow her to answer, and basically she said yes. And then Priya was like, "And you watched that, correct?" Meaning you sat home and watched it. She went back into, you know, how they met or whatever. So this is where in the timeline we get to her starting to confide in his friend and talent manager. Now, again, I'm going to reiterate that she had testified all along at different points during the trial. And if anybody's been following Kat, you know that Kat read every bit of that 900-page transcript. She testified all throughout her, you know, time on the stand that she, up until a point, she never talked to anyone about anything that was going on in their relationship because she's a private person. She didn't tell her parents, her sister, her friends, nobody, because she's a private person. But then when asked what made her record him saying what he said, she said her friends told her to start documenting. Who? You said you weren't telling anybody. So now that makes me wonder, who was the person that told her to document? Was it Priya? Was it, you know, I don't know. But according to her testimony, she didn't start confiding in Priya. And I wish you could see this a little bigger. So up here at the top, it says, Ms. Jabbari, directing your attention to January 13th of 2023. Were you in a relationship with the defendant still? She goes, yes. How was the relationship at that point? It was good. Yeah. What do you mean by that? We just had Christmas. He spent it with my family in England and my birthday, and he had been very generous and kind with my friends, and it was really nice. Yeah. Let me see if I can blow it up a little bit. It felt like a really nice start. We spent New Year's Eve together in the new house in New York. So this is the place that they were in, you know, for the March 25th incident. And it felt like a really nice time. So the defense, I know you mentioned your family. You said you hadn't spoken with your family about any of the issues in your relationship. Correct. Was there anyone you did speak with about the relationship? Yes. Who is that? His manager. And why did you do so? I felt I needed some support from someone who knew him, and I felt safe telling her all the facts without it being kind of what? The conflict of interest, shady. I felt it was a safe person to tell because she also cared for him. And who is the defendant's manager? Her name is Priya Sadiani. Why did you feel she was a safe person to talk to? Well, initially, that kind of openness within our relationship, me and her, started because I would witness how he talked to her, and I didn't like it. And so I would offer her support behind his back. We would have these conversations, and we could make this rapport, just kind of like checking in on each other. Okay, so I'm calling BS on that, but you know, it is what it is. I personally feel like she started confiding in Priya because she was trying to, once again, get some documentation, you know, get somebody in her corner. That is a master manipulative technique. We've all done it. Most of us in our youth as teenagers, like I remember vividly a friend of mine, we were teenagers, 14, 15, 16. Pam, I'm sure you've had it happen. Highly manipulative, childish behavior, but you do it. Oh, call so-and-so and tell him I'm not feeling well, just to see if he'll call me and see how I'm doing, right? Or call, say this and see what he's going to say if you tell him this. You know, just a lot of like manipulative things, or befriend his friends. And young girls are known for doing that, befriending their boyfriend's friends when they start losing a grasp of the relationship, because you figure if you're friends with your boyfriend's friends, he won't leave you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
So what is your take?
Well, see, I look at it from this lens of, you all have from at least the month of October, the month of November, y'all are broken up. So somewhere in December, you all get back together. And again, she said it was a fresh start. You get back together. He's with your family, going to this thing, and then they move into the penthouse and all this other stuff. Now you let my messy and conspiratorial side show. I think that she knew that there was something going on, because I'm quite sure in those couple of months going to all these award shows, there were a lot of women around, a lot of women doing a whole lot of other stuff. And I do believe, and my conspiratorial self, I believe she got wind of somebody, and Priya knew that somebody. And so she buddied up to her to kind of have this camaraderie, because he may have gotten mad at his manager for something, whether they were supposed to do a meeting, whether they were supposed to do something or anything like that. And they probably had a back and forth. I don't know. I'm just speculating. And she heard that and she thought, oh, okay, this is my end to get in and to be sort of like her friend. We can be a camaraderie together. And so she then starts talking about, like, yeah, sometimes he talks to me in a certain way and all this other stuff. And he said he was angry with you right now. I just want to let you know that I'm here and everything like that. And who else does he talk to? Da, da, da. That's one of those ways that you can manipulate how to get in to figure out what else was going on, because you've had a long spat period of time where you were not the main person that he was confiding in and being with or anything like that. So you were trying to figure out your end or trying to figure out your competition.
Yeah. And to your point, from what we understand, Priya Satyani was his friend and his talent manager. Right. So of course you're going to have disagreements. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. This is not a fair deal. Da 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 da. So you're getting a little amped up, heated conversation.
Right.
But of course, being the person that she is, she takes that as him talking to her a certain kind of way. And so that's your end. That's your way to manipulate the situation. I'm trying to give Priya the benefit of the doubt and say that, because we've all been that reluctant, listener, where you're like, oh, okay, all right, well, I gotta go now. I'll talk to you later. And then you kind of go back and say, Jonathan, you need to pump the brakes on this one, because she's saying a lot. And I do feel that way mainly because Grace also testified that there was a point where Priya told him what she was telling him. And he got livid and stopped talking to her for 3 weeks straight. Stopped talking to Grace for 3 weeks straight. So that was another breakup that I neglected to put in the timeline, but that's where that's number 2. So that one happened after January. So after the new year, they had another situation where he didn't talk to her for 3 weeks because he found out from Priya that she was talking about him to her. So at that point, Priya's loyalty was still with him. So I don't know if, like I said, she was just that kind of person that was like, okay, this is his girlfriend. I can't curse her out. Obviously, I can't, be mean to her. So I got to kind of sort of listen, but I got to kind of also, kind of push her away and let Jonathan know what's going on.
Right.
Because
it felt like, to get that mad, it felt like there was a lot of their personal information she was speaking on in an attempt to try to in camaraderie.
Right. Like you kind of find those little trigger points, or what's the word? I call them trigger words, to try to. And that's another thing. And I said this before, she has a refined skill set in terms of overestimating her position in people's lives. Like everybody's her friend, and then you find out they're not really a friend, they're an acquaintance. Like she tried to make it sound like her and Chloe Zoller had this long-term relationship, and Chloe was like, I ain't seen her since that morning. You know what I mean? So that's why I said I'm trying to give Priya Sadiani the benefit of the doubt, because I don't really think that they had bonded over this, common enemy type situation. I think she thought they were bonding because Priya was just kind of entertaining it and then was running it back to Jay. But I don't think they were actually like friends behind his back, like she thought they were.
Right. And his reaction to that, to know that she's talking like that, it was enough. Again, because as she says, I'm a private person, and we know that he's a private person because we don't have no social media to go back to
right, allegedly. Right. No social media to speak of. Right.
So and I imagine if you're on that level of privacy, just going in to say, I was just talking to her, because we had this little thing, and just that level of stuff, and say, well, you should have come to me, you should have talked to me, why are you talking to this? And sometimes what from the way you described her in court, it's like there's not a filter. She's just, oh, this, and I'm just this. So I can imagine if there was no filter, if Priya was entertaining some people, I don't know if she called on the phone, if she went to her office, I don't know exactly what happened and what she did. I can just imagine no filter. You're just in there, just diarrhea of the mouth.
And that's definitely her personality, because she did it with those strangers right on Lafayette Street. She just was going, and I'm just like, damn, are you going to give them your social security number and blood type too? Like, she just has this thing where she just tells everything. So I totally could see that. If she did it with 3 people she had just met at 1 o'clock in the morning in the middle of Chinatown. You know what I mean? Yeah. It definitely wasn't a proper 2 years. It was actually an improper 18 months. So if you whittle down all the times that he stopped talking to her for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, it probably was a solid 12 months, if that. If you add all those cumulative weeks together that they either stopped talking or broke up or this, that, and the third, it starts chipping away at the number of months. But chronologically, from August 2021 to March 2023, that's 18 months. And exactly, Jazz. And that's why Kirby and I on my stream, Let's Talk About It, we kind of went back and forth. And I texted him today, I'm still riding hard on that tortuous interference thing. Because, right, exactly. And if we could ever get to the point where we find out exactly what she said to Priya, and we find out that a lot of it was BS, he has a claim for that. He definitely has a claim for her physically assaulting him. So that would be a civil lawsuit. But I feel like if we can get solid evidence that anything that she told Priya behind his back was not true, you got defamation and you got tortious interference.
And you look how quickly that was, because wasn't he when they were in the I don't know if it was the last car or the second, you remember that, wasn't he on the phone with her, and then she kept saying quiet down, weren't they on the phone? Because apparently that was a breaking point for Priya in his relationship. That was a breaking point for whatever was said or whatever was going on or anything like that. At that point, it was a breaking point.
Yeah, because she testified he was speaking to her on the phone when she kept trying to get him to come back in the car. And so he eventually gets back in the car, but he's only in there for like 5 seconds, and then he gets right back out and goes off running again. And then that's when she finally just stays and eventually goes with Chloe and them. Yeah, I think he already has found a new team. I don't know, I mean, I would hope they, I thought, and I mean, I think that would be a natural thought process that when you hire anybody in this industry, that there would be some type of ironclad, contract that includes non-disclosure, that includes conflict of interest, that includes, you know what I mean? All that stuff. So that's what I'm a little confused about.
So the guy that testified, what was he? His agent?
He was his talent agent, and he had been with him since Yale. So that's the guy that gets him to work, and that gets paid. So that was part of the prosecution strategy too. Oh, so you're basically trying to insinuate that the guy showed up because you get paid when he gets paid, or you don't get paid if he doesn't get paid. And the guy was like, that's not true. He doesn't pay me. He pays the company that I work for. Yeah. So this is the guy that gets a cut. Well, the guy's company gets a cut of whatever he makes on whatever movie, and then the guy gets his commission or whatever. That's the guy that gets him to work. Priya is his manager. So she, I guess, the one that handles his money. She's the one that books his travel, his cars, his, that kind of thing, in addition to supposedly being his friend.
Yeah. Too bad. So this is just me just speaking out in the ether. It would be very, very, very beneficial at this point. You have that, but he also have needed a personal assistant, someone that would be there to run point.
Hey, Jonathan.
Speaking in the ether.
Hey, Jay.
That can run point. Right. CEOs have executive secretaries, and they run point. They pretty much
because in reality, your manager shouldn't be booking your travel and your cars. That's like a personal assistant type thing. Your manager should be just handling your money, your contracts, that kind of stuff. I don't, because when they said she booked his travel and his cars, I was like, she did? So she was like his secretary too. So, yeah, you're right. He probably should have had a personal assistant. But for the sake of efficiency, I guess it made sense. And if she knew how to do it and she didn't mind doing it, then fine. But now, like you said, now we're gonna like forget. Chill putting in his bid. Why don't you join us, Chill? I sent the link. He putting in his bid. Look, speaking into its existence.
You better speak it out here. You better speak it in the world. The only way it's gonna hit an ear.
I'm not sure, Zach. I'd have to look into that. Thank you, Wonder Woman. I'd be a good one too. I have at least 20 years of experience.
Child, listen, Daddy. I have very much confidence that, child, the way you would run point.
Let me tell you, I've had a few different lives. My first life was the first 20 years of I started in high school, but my first 20 years of career was in corporate America. So my first job ever, I worked for CEO of Viacom, one of the departments in Viacom, our music publishing department, and then I worked for CFOs and, but at the time it was the WB, so Warner Brothers TV. I was the secretary to the CFO. So, I did all that before becoming a paralegal. And so my last corporate job was a paralegal. And that was 6 years ago. And then I became an educator because I was so sick of corporate anything. And I always wanted to teach kids. And I found a loophole that would allow me to do it without going back to school to become an official teacher. So I taught what my area of expertise was, which was business education for high school and middle school. So I stayed in my lane, but I was still in the education field. And so now I'm just on my own. I do my own thing. I'm still in public service, but being my own boss. So we digress, but You keep these crows away from him. Girl, he probably would have cursed me out because I always say I have 2 daughters. I always thought I wanted to have sons until I got my 2 daughters. And let me tell you, God knew I would not be a good boy mom, because I'd be that crazy mom picking up the phone. Well, now we don't have house phones, but when I was growing up, picking up the house phone, who this? Why are you calling my son? Nope, you can't come over here. I would definitely be that mother that you don't bring nobody home to unless you're ready to marry them. So yeah, he would probably not like me in that regard, because I'd be everybody like, that ain't it. Nope, that ain't it. Nope. Go ahead, Pam.
I was gonna say we probably need to get back to the timeline.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. So basically, the timeline pretty much ends at hold on, where was that? It pretty much ends at the January 13th, because after that, we have a gap in time. There's a gap in time in the sense of nothing happened until March 25th, 2023. But we do know that between January and March, Jonathan finds out that she's confiding in, or telling his business to his business manager. And he stops talking to her for about 3 weeks. And then, we get to March.
So they really just got back. So it's from January 13th.
Right. So here's the time. There's the timeline right there.
Yeah. So really, there's such a big gap between. That's a big gap. That's a huge gap.
Oh
so
yeah, it's about
3 weeks.
3 months. Well, it was a 3-week period between January 13th. He didn't find out right away that she was confiding in Priya. So let's just say he found out in February. There was a 3-week period that she testified he didn't talk to her. He was sending occasional texts here and there about the dogs. But then I need to go back to the transcript because it seems like it's conflicting. It's off. Because if she's just started talking to him 3 months before the incident and you were living with him in New York, when did he stop talking to you for 3 weeks? So I need to go back and check and see if she was back in London, because she would go back and forth to London during that time. Because even a couple of days after the incident, she had booked a ticket days before to go to London. She had always been planning to go for work. So
and that I'm thinking about it, that might have been why he drove him and the dogs to Sundance, because that was probably during that period of time when they weren't really speaking, and then she was and I don't think that they were. I don't think that they were actually living together. More so that they I don't think that they were living together at that point. I think there was another point that came up that they came back together. I'm not really sure.
She officially moved in and was talking about him giving her the card, and she was going to decorate the place and that kind of thing. Monty, here and there, off and on, because like I said, she testified that there was a 3-week span once he found out about what she was telling Priya Sadiani, that he didn't talk to her at all.
There was always
sending a picture here and there of the dogs and that kind of thing.
There was always a precipitating behavior that always had their relationship to skew out. So you see about back in September, even going back to July, there was always a precipitating behavior that happened, and then they would split.
Right.
To get back, there would be a precipitating behavior that would happen, and they would split. And that's how it looks like their relationship kept going. Every time that there was a split where you think they should just have stayed separate, there was always something drawing back, and it was probably a text message. I love you. I love you too.
Or her laying in the closet with no drawers on, one of those. She's like, it worked before, maybe it'll work this time. And it was like, 911, come get this chick.
I don't know, but maybe
Yeah, and that's the thing. But she kept testifying too I wanted to be with him, or I told him I want to be with you. Why would I A, B, C, or D? I wanted to be with him. This is why I didn't tell anybody. I wanted to be with him. This is why I felt responsible for his triggers, his feelings, his emotions. I wanted to be with him. It was always, I wanted to be with him. This is why I chased him 5 blocks to find out who was on the phone. Yeah, exactly, Monty. It's an available booty situation. I honestly, I said this in another stream, I think it was Dre Max show or somebody else's show, that I think that at the point that they were before the incident, the March incident, I think he just was kind of doing her a favor, trying to help her get her visa, because he has his own production company, sponsor her for the visa, help her get on her feet, give her the card, give her the cell phone so she can try to start finding work, and with some benefits. And the benefits, being a woman, when you're a friend with benefits and you have hopes that the situation is going to hopefully resolve itself, those benefits can scramble your head, scramble your brains. So, sometimes you just got to sleep in separate rooms. Make us sleep on the floor, you sleep upstairs. Forget the benefits, because that's kind of like where the mixed messages come in. Exactly. Pam, you were about to say something?
I was just saying, Monty, you was wrong for that.
He said a bad booty situation, available booty situation.
Yeah,
and like a little hit of that major. Child, child.
That's a real situation. We can sit up, we're giggly, but that's a real situation.
That's real life. That is real life.
Been hanging on to a relationship because the sex is good.
Phenomenal.
How many?
With that kind of physical stamina.
Especially if it's these are two people who are, again, they're artsy. They give me very extreme, passionate type people. I mean, there would be no reason for me not to believe that was partly of the stuff, but that may have been physical, but mentally and emotionally, they were not on the same page at all.
Mm-hmm. No.
And all those things have to click together in order for a relationship to work.
Yeah, it has to. And it's all fun and games until you realize who you actually got. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, didn't I say that in your last stream, where when she kind of did a 180 and it was like, oh, this is the real Grace Jabbari. Right. The real Grace Jabbari showed up about 2 or 3 months into that relationship. And now it's kind of like, well, he's a nice guy. Very few guys are total jerks. That's going to just be like, stop calling me, block your number. You know what I mean? They're going to try to wean you off of them. And some people just can't be weaned. You have to be very clear, very intentional, and very consistent in your, you got to go, And he's just a really nice person, I think, just overall. And when you do have feelings for somebody, it's not easy to just, because you feel bad, You're kind of like, okay, I don't want to be with you, but I do have empathy. I feel bad. I don't really
want you struggling. I don't really want to see you struggling. I don't really want. I've got these resources. Hey, I'll help you out. I'll help you out.
I still want the best for you. I just don't want to be with you. So now you got to try to figure out how to navigate that. And when you're dealing with someone that doesn't have boundaries and that manipulative, and that now she knows that you have some type of, depression or whatever. So she knows what buttons to push to take you there to where you need her. Because again, she testified a lot about, rescuing him, talking him off the ledge, okay, I can get him going. And then if I reel him back in, then, he needs me.
Right. And I will say this. I will say this. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know either one of them. But for me, to know somebody is to be a depressed in a level of depression like that, and you have that Pam, sometimes you just got to speak what you say. You're trying to put these too many words. That pissed me off. That pissed me off to know that when someone is in a low point and they're trying to get up and they think you're reaching down to pick them up because there is this agenda instead of really reaching and trying to get help. You know that if I push, I'm gonna push this button just enough. That pisses me off. And that makes me
know that's what she was doing, because we've all had it done to us, right? Exactly. Whether you have anxiety, whatever, you might not have anything wrong with you, because society sees that as being something wrong. You might be perfectly fine, well-adjusted human being. Everybody has vulnerability, though, and everybody has been manipulated based on that vulnerability, because somebody knows what will get you going, good, bad, or indifferent. And they use that to get what they ultimately want, right?
Exactly.
She never testified, because I do see people mentioning his daughter. She never testified anything about needing the little girl, none of that. So I don't know if she did. I don't recall them even asking her about the little girl. But yeah, he did say that in the domestic violence report.
I know.
I hope.
I know that and if I'm remembering correctly, because I see so much stuff and then it comes back. I remember like right before they announced like this Texas Ranger type situation, they were in Texas at a game. I don't know if they were at a football game or if they were at a baseball game or something like that, or were they visiting with his folks or anything like that. But I do remember that they were in Texas one point in time. Now I can't remember. I don't know why I want to say it seemed like around November-ish, but I don't know if it was November-ish or not. Thanksgiving.
And this was what? This was where'd you see that?
There was a picture.
A picture. Okay.
There was a picture where they were in a stadium. And I think it was whenever I wanted to assume that it was like a Texas something game or something like that. It looked like a game. It was a sporting event.
Okay.
It was a sporting event.
Oh, and she was there. Grace?
I think I would make the assumption that was her he was sitting next to.
Oh, dang. I wish you would have let me know that. We could have did some, we could have gathered some intel on that picture too.
It just hit me in my head that I remember seeing that picture.
But the daughter wasn't in the picture, I'm assuming, because I don't think there are any pictures in the public domain.
Yeah, because he never. I don't think he's ever showcased her.
No, that, like I said, the only picture we got of them together. Now there is another picture out there where he's lying on a beach chair and you see her laying flat. I don't know if it's her. It's just a white lady laying flat on her stomach.
That's when they were in Hawaii.
Oh, right. That's the only other picture, but they weren't together. He was like 2 seats away from her, and she was laying on her stomach, I guess, getting a tan. I don't think she met his family either. They did not testify. She did not testify to meeting his family. And I think it's maybe because his mom is like me. Don't bring nobody to my house unless unless you're all about to get married. And especially not that one. Especially not that one. So, and yeah, right. Making him dependent on her. And I mean, that's a thing. I'm sure we all have either experienced it or we've witnessed it in toxic relationships, whether it be our own parents, grandparents, nieces, nephews, ourselves, where they just keep creating an environment where you need them. They need to be needed. Some people do it fine. Sometimes it's mother and children, where they need to be needed. So they'll keep, making it so that you might need them financially, or you might need them to babysit your kids, or you might need them to let the dog out. There's always going to be some scenario where they have to be involved.
Right.
I
just wanted real quickly, because I just saw this, that they have recast that Man in My Basement with Corey Hawkins. So he won't be getting that role back.
Who's Corey Hawkins? And the Man in My Basement, the Five Bloods, and Magazine G are his production company.
Well, the Man in My Basement is they said that they have recasted. This is according to Deadline Hollywood. It says here, we can tell you that the Color Purple and the In the Heights star Corey Hawkins has landed the lead role and Scapes The Man in My Basement from director Nadia Latif, who's making her future their future directorial debut. So he's lost that position right there. But I was trying to go back through where I saw that picture that I was talking about.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Let me know, because if you find, I'm gonna look through some of these comments. Chill's funny. He's like, he finally closed the relationship on that night. Yeah, and yeah, it was too late by that point. It was too late, but he said over and over again, it's part of God's plan, and he seems like he's really truly at peace. And then anybody, it doesn't matter what religion you practice, if you believe in a God, a higher power, whatever you call him, that's the one overarching theme in all religions, is that God is in control, right? And if you truly, and when you truly do believe that, you are at peace. And he truly seems to be at peace. He even said during the interview, he was like, the whole situation gave him time to like sit down and say, what's going on with you? And just the fact that he has the self-awareness to understand that this was a good time for self-reflection and self-evaluation and rest, and time to actually not only rest your mind, your body, your spirit, give yourself a break. Because it was really going really fast. Like, I'm like, good grief, is this dude going to get a room to breathe? He probably kind of felt relieved, like, I could sit down for a few months. But nobody anticipated, the conviction. So, that's a whole other thing. But again, he seems at peace with that, because he knows that the majority of Americans thought that was wrong. You just have a handful of loud and wrong empty cans, but the majority of people are on his side and see that. And if they're not specifically on his side, they can appreciate the fact that this was a miscarriage of justice.
Right.
Just never speaking.
Yeah, and also too, the thing that people are starting to see is the fact that what they were fed, once they saw, because once all that evidence dropped, I think a lot of people stopped and they were like, wait a minute, hold up. Because
right.
I will tell you again, that S word, I call it the S word, that initially started this. It seems to be very surprising, and I don't know if I need to get because I don't have time to like I used to be able just to surf and stir up and look, but it's always noticeable. I saw somebody who tweeted that, oh, I thought that he had asked her, and that's how all of this started. And I was like, and someone in the chat said, no, that charge was dropped. It had nothing to do with that.
And
that's
she
what
testified that he didn't do that, and they didn't know. She didn't know where they got that information from.
Exactly. And then you see this with this other young man that ended up pleading to the same charges that Jonathan was found guilty to. That S word kept coming up, and then you start hearing this S word keep coming up over and over again. And I'm starting to think that this S word has higher or strict charges
that elevates the charge if you can prove that somebody was est.
Yeah. So that
Or
S
got
word,
the Tommy Egan versus Holly treatment.
but that has, and but all that to say is a lot of people are starting to see, well, wait a minute. So that's not what he did this. No, that's not what happened. You get the information and you get the evidence and you read. And shout out to Kat again. If you all want to understand what happened in that courtroom and what evidence that they have, she is reading, because I think she's on the officers now, but she's reading the transcripts. And I remember there was a thread that you and her were in, because somebody kept going back and forth and back and forth. And I think at the end you were saying, "Are we still talking to her?" But
yeah,
but it was,
yeah. Go ahead.
it's you only went here, but if you go back and you read the transcripts and you read the information and you visually see the stuff, what the stuff that's highlighted over here is not the totality of the information. But all of this to say is that there are a lot of people, for whatever reason or for whatever, if it's because you felt like the police arrested him unjustly, because people are trying to wrap their heads around that. How do you call the police and then you get arrested? If you feel people were he was overly prosecuted, there was, because I have that big issue about putting 17, 18 charges, like I said, throw in the kitchen sink at the wall and see what sticks. If you looked at how I'm also looking at certain relationships between the prosecutors. I'm still trying to figure out, how do you have the prosecutor's cell phone that you can text them about, oh, am I getting arrested? See, that right there seems a little difficult. You have the office number, but you don't have that personal text message. That personal thing, because again, the prosecution doesn't work for you; they work for the people.
For the people.
So that's if you're looking at something, if you're looking at stuff like that, if you're looking at the fact that you've been in a toxic relationship and everything like that, or all those different things, you start to understand that. If you're looking at the fact that mental health and emotional health issues and things like that. All of this to say that whatever it is you think, a lot of people are looking like, this doesn't make any sense. This should not have gotten to this point. And particularly what I think I am more aware of is particularly like for young men in Hollywood, young Black men in Hollywood, they have their reputation, and it does not take much for that reputation to stain. And if that reputation has any stain on it, they lose so many jobs. He is one of the first people that I have ever seen that lost so much so quickly, and we hadn't even got to court yet.
Yeah.
Because words like, we're going to suspend him from this until this. It wasn't even anything like that. It was like, to the point he had to go to court. He had to go to court and prove his innocence. However, his lawyer, the jury did. Anyway, we're not going to go through there. We know
I
that.
know. It's crazy. Let me say hi to Dre. Hey, Dre, how you doing? I'm going to get to the Kai. I'm going to get to what you're talking about, because that's important to note as well. Jazz, the character matters not, clearly, because they allowed her to assassinate his character for 3 days straight. No, 2 days straight, with a bunch of background knowledge. So by the time we got to the actual issue at hand, everybody already saw him as this bipolar, manipulative, narcissistic, emotionally abusive lunatic that wanted her to be Coretta Scott King. So, at that point, his character didn't matter, because they even objected during the defense's opening arguments, her mentioning that he was a Yale graduate, but they were okay with her mentioning that he came from a single parent household.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, because of the fact that they were allowed to send those 2 days of all of that. So, but you're not supposed to count that for the deliberation. Who in their right mind who was going to separate?
Right.
That? So you had already set up that you were going to do that. Instead of starting from the day of the stuff, you got all this background information. I think that background information should have been something read, like they started their relationship on this, they
Right,
did
like
this.
a summary, right? Like in the opening arguments, a quick summary, and then move on. Dre sent a super chat. Thank you, Dre. Hey, how you doing? So I'm gonna go back real quick because they did and that's why I said I think he's at peace. Well, I know he's at peace because he did say that. If you look at this purple area that I have up on the screen, where right at the top, August 2022, this is a snippet from the New York Times, and I'm actually going to show you the article. He says, now mind you, in July 2022, this is when the incident occurred where he said on the Good Morning America segment that he smacked the candles off the table and that he was, ashamed of himself for doing that, and he wouldn't want his child to do something like that. He admitted to doing that in July of 2022. So in August of 2022, probably barely a month later, he says, if life keeps popping off the way it is, I'm going to die soon. I'm okay with that. It won't be drugs. It won't be alcohol. It'll just, something's going to get me. You know what I mean? All right. So real quick, I'm going to show you the actual article because he says it a few times. And it was kind of depressing because this was way before anything even happened with him that I read this article. And I was like, good grief, is he all right? Like, and I was like, is he all right? But now it's all coming together because he clearly was depressed. Not even a month before this interview, he was dealing with her and her nonsense. He was on the magazine Dreams, doing all the training and the eating and the force feeding himself and it was a lot. And he talked about that a lot, having to force feed himself 6,000 calories a day just to get 15 pounds on him. If you want to, you can actually go. I'll put the link in the chat if you want to read it because we're not going to read the whole thing, but you can listen to it as well if you're a listener type. But I'll put the link in the chat. But there were a few different times in that article that he mentioned dying. He mentioned the boogeyman. I can't log in. But you log in. I think you get three free articles a month.
That second paragraph, he said he remembered a dark energy. Mm-hmm. See that?
Yeah, right here.
Right.
And he said on that ABC News thing that as he's been depressed since a kid. So it's not like he just made that up freestyle just so people could feel sorry for him because he had been saying this since at least August 2022.
Right. And then people take about, in September, he was saying he was going to kill because he was being manipulative. No, this article shows you he has been talking
feeling
about
this way. Right. And that goes back to me saying he's just generally a nice person and he's just an open book because who tells somebody that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're just trusting. He trusts a lot. And that's a lost art form. Somebody that's just that pure at heart that you would just trust people with that kind of information. And I'm just glad that the person that took the interview didn't sensationalize it because we didn't hear anything about it. If you didn't read that article, you wouldn't have even known, about that. And a lot of people didn't know. And that's why they thought he was just saying that for the masses a few weeks ago. But he had been saying it.
Yeah.
And been crying out for help. But again, that might be another reason why nobody sensationalized him saying that to the New York Times because they don't take the mental health of Black men seriously. You say something like that, it's probably an old wives' tale or some voodoo or some Black people stuff. They always coming up with superstitions and stuff like that, and they don't take it seriously.
And that's so sad, Fahim. A reputation and credibility are the only things Black males of that caliber can stand on. One falls, it all falls.
Yep. And that's pretty much the moral of the story. Yep. Wonder Woman. It chilled me to the bone too. And this was way before the March, the March situation. I was like, wow, and I saw it for what it was because I have deep spiritual beliefs. And so I just automatically knew where he was going with that. I didn't look at it like, oh, this dude is crazy. I thought like, wow, that's some serious spiritual heaviness, and Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible, Ramar. I know. Here's the link. It's in the chat. I hope it stays in the chat. But if y'all want to read it or listen to it, you don't have to have a subscription because I think New York Times gives you like 3 free articles a month. So this one probably will be free, and then you just can't click on it anymore. you yeah, she does. She was definitely Monty. Yep, Wonder
You know, they
Woman.
never talk about the fact, because I know Chill can pull it up real quick, but they never talked about those text messages, and particularly those text messages that Priya put out. That very top line, only
Mhm.
you will know. There is no note. Only you will know. So you use that. That was manipulative for me.
Mhm. Oh
I don't
yeah.
know if else feel that was manipulative for me. That to use that, and then he's going to come home, and then you make a man have to choose, a black man in America, making a black man in America have to choose to call 911 or to let because they don't know what's going on with you. You already knew that.
Right.
Like you said, you didn't think he was going to take it that far, but what did you think? You stayed down there just a little too long.
Right. When he was trying to get you up to the point where he felt like he had to call the police.
Yeah.
Craziness. Yeah, he's a man of the people, and he actually said something in another interview where he used some kind of quotes where if you build walls around yourself, it kind of creates enemies. But if you're with the people, he's a for the people kind of person. Like he likes to talk to the people. He's not full of himself. Oh yeah, that y'all, Dre. We had this discussion, so we ain't gonna turn it into a whole nother therapy session. But it's a joke. It's always a joke. Possibly Roberta, because they said that he's a method actor, so I'm sure that he carries his roles with him, until
Right.
he's done with that particular role, and that can definitely play on your spiritual health if you're that deep in a role that you don't separate yourself from it when you go home.
He also
Um,
mentioned that, I know it was on that Ant-Man and Quantumania, that I think it was that one, or one of these movies, that he had a counselor. I don't know if the counselor was tied in with the theater, or is this a personal counselor that he was talking to a counselor.
mhm.
So
Well,
I'm thinking
yeah,
maybe,
I don't know if this is the therapist that Grace was talking about, or if this was somebody separate just for the Ant-Man stuff. I don't know. But yeah, he's definitely one of the beautiful ones, and it's sad because it's almost like the powers that be saw that, and they're like, we can't break this dude. We can't get him to do and say what we want him to do. And I'm not even talking about all the casting couch stuff that everybody talks about. I'm just saying in general, just something as simple as being pretentious and and untouchable and keeping certain things to yourself. He's who he is, and so far nobody's going to change that. And a lot of people can't stand that. I know a lot of people don't like that about me, and that's fine. Because see me, I don't like a whole lot of people. So that works totally good for me. If my confidence, my energy, my positivity rubs you the wrong way, then that means your spirit ain't in the right place. So you don't need to be near me. You know what I mean?
and that's okay, because
Yeah,
that's
I don't, and that's
that's not.
fine. That's
Yeah,
fine because it's disturbing your demons. So you need to keep that over there. I'm not sure, Jazz, but I wouldn't be surprised because if you go on YouTube and you watch some of the raw footage of them filming him doing a lot of the training scenes, he did all that himself. And there's one in particular where he's doing this drill on these parallel bars, and he could barely pull himself up. And then there's another scene where he's trying to do what do they call those things? I can't think of it. It's not a pull-up. It starts out as a pull-up, but then you're kind of like standing on your arms. He was able to only do one, and then he ended up having to just do tricep dips. because he was so tired. And like he literally fell to the ground when they stopped filming. And then you see Michael B. Jordan come up to him and kind of comfort him. Because I mean, I wanted to cry when I watched it, and it was only 4 minutes long. And I was like, God, he looks like he's in so much pain. I mean, they just kept rolling. He had to keep doing it over and over and over. And the cameras are all in his face, and he couldn't stop. And it was just, and they out in the heat on Venice Beach. Pull all the way up. So, yeah, so he like kind of pulls himself up and kind of stands like that, but he only was able to do one of them. And then he just ended up like just doing, oh, y'all see my tricep muscles? Yeah, I've been working out. He just ended up doing tricep dips, and he just kind of fell. He just kind of fell to the ground.
There is on YouTube. There's a guy. I can't think of what his name, but it's probably like a 17 or 18-minute video because he was there that day that they were on Venice Beach and they were recording, and you see the whole totality because there was another time when he was on set that. If you remember in the movie where he was running on the beach and he had the parachute behind him, that was the thing that he got frustrated because, you know, every time he started running, he couldn't run, or, you know, the sand and all of this stuff was being hampered. But if I find that video, I will put it in the chat too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because there's a lot of stuff that I had never seen. I just found that one with the pull-ups and the thing he was doing on those parallel bars. About a week ago, and I was like, "Oh my Lord!"
Did you see that part when he that rope?
When he had to pull himself up on the rope? Yeah, I mean, and he does his own stunts. He does. See, I'm thinking, you know, when they do that whole montage thing, they're just taking clips of different workouts, and he's just doing maybe one pull up, and then they'll take a clip of that, or one sit up, one push up, one, you know, he maybe might run 2 or 3 feet, and then they'll stop. But no, he's really doing this stuff. Muscle ups, that's what they're called, Ramar, right? He was only able to do one of the muscle ups before he kind of like just did the dips and then fell. Earl, I don't think he's going to get, if everything goes the way it's supposed to and we get out of this corruption, this circle of corruption, he should be like anybody else. And get probation, community service, pay a fine, maybe an anger management class. That's it. You got men that beat their wives to a pulp that only get that. Chris Brown only got that. So if they give him more than that, then you know that there's an agenda, and that's a whole other, you know, issue that's out of my pay range. And I think that they need to go hard and probably employ some, you know, hire gun attorneys at that point, because that would be a total civil rights violation in comparison to how they normally treat those kind of cases. Yes, he's definitely different from the rest. Earl, I guess you're responding to Jazz saying he had a temper tantrum. Not for nothing, and I think that's another thing too, because, you know, I'm just going to go back onto that real quick. People are entitled to be tired. People are entitled to get angry. People are entitled to have temper tantrums. That does not mean that you're any less of a person, especially when you're in an environment that is so physically and psychologically demanding. You're allowed to get upset. Alec Baldwin is the poster child for cursing people out, for making people feel like shit, but he just keeps he shot a woman, accidentally killed her, but he's not losing everything that he earned. Now, obviously, he has a selection for the protection, but my point is that just because, and whether it's true or not, it's neither here nor there. We've all had temper. How many people go to work every day and damn near curse somebody out? Does that mean, Dre is funny, does that mean that you're supposed to just lose everything because you got pissed off at the lady in the next cubicle who moved your lunch and you couldn't find it? No, that just means you had a bad moment, a bad day, and you just moved on. I don't know, Chill. The last thing I heard, you know, I listened in passing. I feel like last week they were still litigating that. I have no idea. But the point is the lady died. I don't believe it was on purpose. I like Alec Baldwin. But I mean, he has a history of being very abusive to everybody, verbally, you know, to his own child. At one point, 10, 15 years ago, they leaked a voicemail where he called his daughter a little pig and was cursing her out. And she was only like 13. So, you know, it's you know, it's all relative. Yeah, I mean, him and Michael B. Jordan, they said they were brothers, but he's been radio silent the entire time. And no, we're not expecting him to post a think piece on the issue, but I thought he would at least say as much as Anthony Mackie said, guilty and innocent until proven guilty, but he said nothing. So I'm hoping that they got some kind of understanding that he's supposed to play low and that he's just not shady. Because, you know, Michael B. Jordan's been in the industry since he was a child. I remember him from The Wire when he was like 13, 14. He's all the way Hollywood. You know, Jonathan just started becoming popular. So, you know, I don't know if Michael B. Jordan is as down to earth as he seems to be, or if he's just another one of those, you know, Hollywood types that, you know, you work for now because it's good for optics. And then, you know, kind of falls off if, you know, the shit hits the fan. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what Jazz heard that, but I don't know. And right, Fahim, it's human to have emotions. You're supposed to have emotions. And again, we've all melted down at work at one point or another. Everybody does it differently, you know.
I just put in the chat that video that I saw, the long form video of what we were talking about, you know, being him a little frustrated and stuff like that. But if you see all the physicality that he was doing, you can.
Oh, it was that little 4-minute snippet that I saw with the muscle ups and the dips and the pull ups. When I tell you, and I've said before, I've just started getting back into working out. I go every day now and I do full body strength training. So in probably 6 weeks, I'm probably going to look like Serena Williams. But don't get scared because that's the kind of body type I have. So I'm trying to, I don't know if I should lose a little more weight first because I don't necessarily want to look that big, but it's probably going to happen. But my point is, I'm nowhere near his level of fitness, and I every day leave that gym with the attitude. So that means because you get so tired, and like my arms hurt as I speak because I literally go every day because I know if I don't go every day, I'm going to not go. You know what I mean? And I do a full body workout every day. And by the time I leave that gym, I literally take my stuff off and I go lay down. Then I get back, you know what I mean? I take my protein and then I go lay down.
Right.
Because you're so mentally and physically exhausted, you know? So imagine that times 10, especially when you're talking Creed and Magazine Dreams and having to force feed yourself because you have to gain a certain amount of weight in a certain amount of time. Yeah, see? And that's a whole person's life snuffed out, albeit accidentally. But this was an accident too, was it not? I thought.
Yeah.
And this dude lost everything before they could even get the last not guilty out. He said,
and if you read that, it said defended by SAG-AFTRA. I mean, are they paying for his defense funds or something like that? Or because to me, that would be a conflict of interest because the AFTRA part of the SAG-AFTRA represented the woman that got killed.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I don't know. I have to follow the case.
I don't know what the acronym stands for, but that's for the people like the Grips and
Screen Actors Guild. I don't know what the after part actors something.
That portion of it. That's where all those other people are in there, like the people who the Grips and the wardrobe people and all the all those people are in that part of it. So if SAG-AFTRA is paying for his legal fees, if I read that correctly, that seems like a conflict, particularly if the other woman, because she was a director of photography.
Was she? I wasn't sure. I thought she was like one of the. Oh, so she wasn't even one of like the Grips or the extra people. Because
she was. I think she was the director of photography. She was there with the little camera, making sure that the scene was set up right and you got the best shot and everything like that. So
put the bullet in the gun. Lord have mercy.
That person. that person should be on trial as well.
The person
Because
in charge of the blanks, because why are real bullets even on the set? That's the better question.
That's the bigger question.
Why are real bullets on the set? Daisy Ball, I'm not sure if you saw the ABC interview, but he did say that. He said, I'm an emotional cat. He did say that, but whether it be crying or otherwise. Yeah, but at the end of the day, he still said something though. He could have just been like no comment or I don't know and moved on. But he made a decent statement, to show that, to show some type of support in terms of, innocent until proven guilty. But yeah, so
just something like, I can imagine they're going through a lot, and we're just going to let this play out, and be through with it. I mean, like I said, Hollywood is I'm learning day by day that Black Hollywood is not as big as they are, and sometimes it seems like they're just doing everything to keep their heads above water. And sometimes when and sometimes it sounds like it's a little vindictive. If you're tied with this person, then somebody else is not going to want to work with you. And
that's sad. And like I said, it just reminds me of plantation mentality, because it's kind of like, okay, we got one of you in the house. In order to keep your position in the house, you can't talk to the ones in the field. You know what I mean? Because if you talk to the ones in the field, you're going to lose your position. It's like that with media people, because I have a couple of good friends that are actually in, like, they're known reporters, anchors, because I told you I worked in broadcast media early on in my career, and they don't want to touch this. I texted one and she was like, "Oh, I haven't been following it. I'm going on vacation." But they're Black, and I'm like, ain't no way, because you're the pop culture queen. You mean to tell me you don't know about this and all you do is cover pop culture stuff? Right. But it's kind of like they don't want to speak on something taboo, even though you have a husband, you have sons, you have a brother. You know what I mean? So you're right. It's the movie and the media that it's a small cluster of us that are scrambling for position and don't want to lose their role. And it's sad. It's a sad situation. Yeah, I'm with Wonder Woman, but I don't want to talk about nobody's friend, because we could be wrong. But until I see otherwise, that's the only impression I can get. That's the only impression I can get. Being a friend and knowing what a true friend is. Nobody's saying you have to get into detail. You could have just said as much as Anthony Mackie said and moved on, but you haven't said anything. And then it seems like anything that you posted that had Jonathan Majors in it, he's not in it anymore. Why is he not in any of that Oscar? What is the Golden Globes or Oscar? Whatever those posters are of Creed 3, he's not in any of them. Why? He was in the movie.
Yeah. Well, you just see the NAACP awards. If you go back to that video, he's not even nominated for anything in the NAACP. And put that last quote back there. Yes, why does make this right here? Have no clue. Because when you look at any Black publication, whether you and also too, and I think I think I've mentioned something like that on Chill's channel. A lot of these Black publications are not owned by Black folk, so if publication doesn't want to talk about that, they don't talk about it. And so because the only time you saw anything mentioned about him was like the Shade Room and the Neighborhood Talk, but all of that was for
salaciousness and clowning and being irreverent.
That nobody covered the case like that. So it's always I know that a couple of places they may have hit it, but just to follow it from the front to the beginning, nobody did that until it got because the one thing that stood out for me, Danny, and I think I've said this several times, it was really amazing to know that there was 18 publications when Grace was testifying, and as soon as that ended, There was nobody else there. They got their salacious headline
and
and
left. And they didn't come back until verdict watch.
they
didn't
left.
come back.
They
But the answer to that question is why the black media wasn't covering it is exactly what I said. A good friend of mine, Dr. Oz, Good Morning America, Puffy's what's that Revolt, very well known media person, told me she was not following the case and that she was going to be away on vacation and changed the subject. Black, pro-black, lives in Harlem.
And that's what you got a lot of people. They were like, well, no, he shouldn't say anything until after he was sentenced. He shouldn't say anything. By that time, everybody is going to be gone. Nobody is going to be paying any attention. People who, the news cycle is so quick. Nobody's going to say anything. Why not speak? I mean,
did he,
what's
Artemis?
happen?
Right. But I'm positive that's what it is. It probably was literally like a moratorium put on every black journalist in America. Don't say shit. Don't say shit. Don't say anything. And that's crazy to me. I don't know, Artemis, is that true that's what happened when he got charged? So he wanted to keep a low profile?
He just crashed that car maybe 2 months ago.
Oh, verdict day. Okay, she was saying.
Oh, verdict day. Yeah, that's true. I was just going to say that was
maybe
around that time.
Was karma for not saying nothing
on the street. That was around that time. You're exactly right. Child, they tried
the root. I think isn't the root owned by NBC or somebody?
It's something like that. Huffington
None
Post.
of those publications are black owned. The only ones that were left that were black owned was BET, and they sold that to Viacom.
Right.
None of these things are black owned. They're just subsidiary or sub brands of the bigger brand, but they're not owned by black people. And then, like you said, the ones that seem to be owned by black people are using it as a clowning, a way to clown and get likes and clicks,
right?
Instead of sticking with the facts.
Yeah. Only time that they will chase a story again, it has to get to a point where it's like they were probably there during verdict day. They probably was chasing the story on verdict day. And I never forget watching one of Victoria Burke's one of her videos. She was like, because did you see the articles where all these newspapers and these mainstream media things are laying off all these reporters? And it's like now they're all talking about, we're going to get us a YouTube page and we're going to get us a thing. But it was the YouTubers that were out here covering this story from front to back. And now it's like, oh, now you done lost your job. So is the journalistic integrity going to come back? What's going on?
Right. But you want to know what's crazy? There were two black female journalists that I talked. I hate when I put the peace sign up. I don't know what those balloons are. Two black female journalists that I had built a rapport with, and I got their numbers and everything. I think one of them wanted my number because she was trying to get me to tell her stuff, and I did not. They didn't even come every day. And they kept saying, I was like, well, are you going to be here tomorrow? Well, no, they got me on other assignments. Or no, I got to go on the desk. I got to do this. I got to do that. So, and they sat right with me, right behind Jonathan's family. So I knew, what side they were on technically. But they didn't even come every day. So I'm almost wondering if and this is CBS and ABC, the local. So I'm almost wondering if they were given a directive, okay, you can go, but you can't stay. You can't, almost to kind of stifle their ability to get a more objective perspective. Thank you, Roberta, by the way. I don't know, because it was weird because the white ones came every day. The ones that came and stayed however long they stayed, same ones came every day. But the black ones maybe come 2 days, disappear 4 days. Come another 2 days, disappear another 2 days. There was never a time where they came 3 and 4 days in a row. to
Right.
match, and then they would disappear for the rest of the week.
And that's why all their information was the same, because you probably had those 4 or 5 that came every day. That's where everybody else was getting their information from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right, Miss Perspective Pat. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. And the sad thing about it is that whoever is really running these blogs or Instagram pages, they know how to get our attention. And it's sad that it takes so little to distract us and get us to turn on each other. But again, that's that plantation mindset, that Willie Lynch kind of thing, where it's like they list out all the ways to destroy us, and we literally just go by the playbook. Van Lathan of all people.
And
yeah,
that
he's
was
a
so,
sucker. That was some sucker shit. Because he was the main one kissing up to him when he did that interview with the girl from The Bachelorette, and then gonna go switch up on him. That's why he lost his job at TMZ. Oh, sucker.
that was I saw that, and it was like, oh, you're just doing this, and I'm like, y'all sat up there and had a whole conversation about mental health and all this other stuff, and you've talked about your levels of depression, and then you come up there all wide-eyed and boogie-tailed and talking the way you talk. I was like, okay, The Ringer. See, they're owned by The Ringer, so Ringer made I'm just making that assumption that they made him do all that. He should have said he was just up there performing. Okay.
Yeah, Van Lathan played itself with that, and I hope he lost a significant amount because he was the only one that kind of was real, and seemed like he was, moving by his own drum and had creative control over his own stuff. But that was that I didn't watch it. I kind of saw like highlights or heard highlights, and I just I'm not even watching.
What made it so funny? I was expecting Rachel surprised me because she was the one that had the level head, because usually she's like, oh no, I'm not going to deal with this, da da da. But she was like, I'm
gonna tell you why. 2 reasons. One, because that clear man that she married is divorcing her, so now you see she getting a JM treatment right now. And 2, they grew up in the same area. Here we go with the balloons again. They grew up in the same area. Because that first interview they did with him, they were talking about growing up in the same town and the schools and all of that. So she kind of probably,
Right.
And Jazz, you're right. It's global because the same people caused it.
Right. When you did your peace sign, is that from StreamYard?
I don't know. I think so, because the same thing happened when I was on with Chill one time. I went like this, and then the balloons popped up. And then I think if I do a thumbs up, something else happens, but it's not happening. So I don't even know. It's weird, but I'm like, what does a peace sign have to do with balloons? No idea. But
hey, Caliber. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he's the Uncle Ruckus, and a Clarence Thomas, and who's that Tom, whatever his name is, that looked like that character from Fat Albert. All of them, they all cut from the same cloth. It has. Oh, you unsubscribed. Oh, I never subscribed to it, but I'm hoping that people like you that did subscribe and heard him saying what he was saying bounce, because that was some shady two-faced nonsense. How you keying up in his face 6 months ago, and now you're gonna switch up on him, and come on, man, nah. Just don't say nothing about it, but don't sit there and try to do a 180 on him. Like this can't happen to you.
They all love dancers, Jazz. They all love dancers.
Yeah, she a dancing some other mess. Because the only thing I saw her do on her page look like that stuff that, how when you watch those movies with the demon possessions and they be all contorted and crawling all up on the ceiling. That's all I saw her doing.
Hey, Caliber.
Hey, Caliber. But yeah. Anything else, Pam? So we've been going for a minute. Good grief.
I didn't realize
it. Distracted for about 30 minutes, so
I don't have anything. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Because that's what we're basically doing right now, just looking and reading through the comments. because you
Yeah,
know
I think I made it to the end of the comments. Make sure you guys click like, please. Like, follow, share, everything else that you should do to make sure, you know.
the page. Make sure
Yeah.
you tell a friend, you tell a kin, you tell your coworker, you tell that heifer that you can't stand that we are over here making these videos. Right?
Yes, come on. I don't make them as much as Pam does. But you see, I was missing for like 2 weeks, but definitely, definitely show Pam and Chill and Dre and Blue and everybody some love. A cat, give them the love, because I can't be relied upon for content, but they can. They go on here just about every day, and if they invite me, I'll come on with them. But yeah, it's thank you, Caliber. You're so sweet.
So
Yeah,
so
me
Danny,
too.
are you going to be at the verdict?
I plan. You mean the sentencing?
I'm sorry.
I plan to. I'm hoping that I find something out between now and Monday that they either rescheduled it or it got canceled because they filed an appeal. Because
Okay.
real talk, we cool, Jay, but I don't know if I feel like going up there in that 20-degree weather. Because I just checked and it's going to be like 23 degrees. I ain't built for that. It was 80 here a couple of days ago. So, what new movie, Caliber? What new movie?
Because I was going to say, you know, with your YouTube page, you could put your you can put your cell phone on a stick and you can simulcast right outside. Well, it's too cold to be outside.
That is true. That's a good idea. Now that I have this all set up, I might just go live. But I mean, I don't want to sensationalize it either, because heaven forbid they should say some craziness. I'm gonna probably lose it because I'm so sick of this whole situation. I'd probably be like, you guys ever saw Dead President when he got sentenced? Lorenz Tate's character got sentenced and he threw the chair at the judge and all that. That's probably gonna be me. I served this country, and this what you gonna do to me?
Ooh, child. That was something. Dead President.
Oh, the wrong man. No, that's not an actual movie. That is Flavio he's not on any of these channels. He doesn't create content. He's just a really fierce advocate of Jonathan Majors. And he took and photoshopped Jonathan's face onto the wrong man's poster, suggesting that be a project that Jonathan pursues. It's not an actual project, but he did such a good job with the Photoshop that everybody thinks it is. But hopefully Jonathan saw it, and it'll be something that he tries to do under his production company, because it's definitely a worthwhile endeavor. The original movie is very good. Huh?
I was saying something about, I think I remember reading Flavio saying that it's like, you know how that Mickey Mouse and all those things are like public domain now, and you can take those scripts and things like that, and you wouldn't have to.
You don't have to pay for them. Right. I know, Artemis. I'm hoping so too. I'm praying that come Monday morning, because I'm looking at an evening flight, so I'll get to New York at night, so I can have the whole day to try to watch and make sure. I'm hoping Monday at some point they say, "Oh, we're not gonna have the sentence on the 6th," and then I can be like, "Woo!" But if not, I plan to be there Monday night, fly in Monday night, be there Tuesday morning, and pray. And hope I don't lose my shit, because I'm really at that point that I'm probably about to catch a case. It'll be a first-time offense, so I'm good. I am. I'm so tired. Girl, I'm so tired. And when I tell you the paddy wagon is right outside, they got like 3 40-passenger buses right outside the courthouse, because the jail is right there. Central booking is right there. I'm ready, because I'm so tired of this whole situation. And I'm like, if one more thing happens that's completely illogical and unjust, I think I might lose it for him. No, it wasn't that misperspective. It was that the judge ruled that she could not be called victim. They called her complainant. because if they called her a victim, that would prejudice the jury, even though they did everything else to prejudice the jury. So they may as well call her a victim. But that was the judge that ruled that she could not be called a victim.
Right. And only mention the fact.
That's what I thought. Now, like I said, I'm going to check a couple more of my resources. Everything else that I've checked is not showing any appeal was filed. I could be looking in the wrong place because, again, I live in Florida now. I have not lived in New York for a really long time. But I don't see where the appeal was filed. I spoke to Kirby today. Kirby said that they might be waiting until after sentencing and then appeal the whole thing. But then I'm like, well, what if they decide they want to make an example out of him and actually make him do the time? So he's supposed to sit in jail and I'm supposed to be going to visiting him every week. No, I'm just kidding. I'm supposed to be putting money on his books while y'all play around with this appeal. Like, what are you doing?
That's what they said. Said money on that. According to Megan.
Look, I'm just saying, because I mean, I'm too deep into this now. What I'm supposed to just sit here and wait for them to, you know. So I don't know. I mean, I've seen, because I watched a lot of Dateline, and that's the only knowledge I have of this at that point. I have seen on Dateline, I think a few different times where once the sentencing takes place and they file the appeal, sometimes they'll let them out pending the appeal. But this is not a murder. So I'm just like, why? Man, listen, I don't know. Yeah, Fahim, it might not be posted, but everything else is. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, I'm funny. Thank you. I'm trying to laugh to keep from crying. This is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot physically. It's very physically demanding because remember, I got to go through the airport. Thank God I got pre-check, but I got to go through the airport. And once you get to New York, you got to get to both airports are hella far from downtown Manhattan. Then it's cold. Then, you know, it's just a whole lot of stuff. And I'm just like, it was cool during the trial. Oh, that'd be nice if Kirby could. I'm trying to get him out of his comfort zone, but you know, I'm not trying to step on toes either. So at the end of the day, Priya is his attorney. I think somebody commented that they thought that her husband was his new manager. So, you know, at the end of the day, that's where his allegiance lies. I cannot criticize that either way. But I do, you know, just from a professional standpoint, what I do in my own personal business, if it's something I don't know, or if it's something I feel like I might be overreaching in my area of expertise, I'll ask somebody else. And I don't see anything wrong with that. You know, I don't. And I don't think that that means anything negative toward his legal team. It just means that they are professional enough to accept that maybe somebody else can give you a different perspective, you know, or give you, you know, because they have no attachment to the case, give you some insight as to what may be going on, especially because he was a DA in New York. He was a DA in Georgia. He's currently a defense attorney, and he's in his he's going to be 60. So he's way older than us, and he has 30, 40 years of experience. So you know what I mean? So, and he's a black man. So that helps as well. That defends black men more often than not. So consult, right? Pay him a consulting fee. What do you think, Herbie? Herbie wins a lot of his appeals as a defense attorney. How do you do that?
Right.
You know, what strategy should you employ? Pay him his little consulting fee, move on. But I don't think that at this point, because you only get one chance to file an appeal, that they should at the first level, obviously. I would hope this wouldn't go to Supreme Court because that's just ridiculous. But at the first level, you only get one chance. Why botch it? You know? Take your time and do it right. You know, that's what I would tell my kids whenever they would take exams. Take your time and do your best. I mean, do your best.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I think we're going to start wrapping it up. Yes, all hands on deck. Everybody. Us, the lawyers, everybody. We need to just keep pushing for this dude, man. And not, you know, and just keep, you know, because this is just, you know, This is to me, it's an omen of what's to come. If this continues the way it's going. You know, because now they're trying to slide Denzel's son in the mix, and then they gonna do him next? You know, so I don't know.
Y'all just there are hashtags on Twitter. And if you go to Danny's Twitter page, she's got all the hashtags. Justice for Jonathan, Majors Matters. Just keep flooding those hashtags. If you're on Twitter or if you're on IG or anything like that, just do the hashtag. Just to show some support. Just to show some support. Like I said, everybody's support will be different for whatever reason that they're supporting. But if you feel like you want to support that.
Right. I'm gonna put the hashtag in the comments too. You know, use a lot of these hashtags. We're using all of them for the most part. I don't know why I broke it up, but yeah, use the hashtags and just keep, because like I said, it's bigger than Jonathan. Yeah, right now we're talking about Jonathan. And some of us have more vested into this than others. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's setting a precedent for how future Black actors that are of his caliber and of his character will be treated, that aren't Hollywood, that aren't in the in crowd, that are new to the field and came in as adults, and not children or teenagers, so.
And also how they set that stuff up, because I'm still pissed off that all that background information got added in there and it didn't talk about the thing, because I wanted to see those texts from the day, but I do understand that they have to negotiate. But for all of that stuff to come in from September, they ain't got nothing to do with March 24th. I wanted to hear everything that happened from March, from the rooter to the tutor. And
because that's the crazy thing. We didn't see not even a quarter of the text of March 25th, 26th. But we saw all these text messages and everything else from way before then, which is crazy. But like I said, hopefully they filed the appeal, and that unduly prejudicial background knowledge is a huge part of their appeal, and among many other things, because they need to just go for everything they can. Hopefully.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
No, I didn't like it either. I literally sucked my teeth and rolled my. They might have started that nonsense where he kept threatening us every other day about reacting because of me. Because a few times I was just like, really? No, like for real. And I was close to the front. So I'm like, I'm sure. And I caught a couple, because there's a couple of female, but they real, hardcore. So, they trying to compete with the men court officers. So of course they doing the most. The men court officers could care less what you doing there. But them, if you blink too hard, stop reacting. Stop reacting. Put your phone away. Stop talking. But I'm like, you don't sit down somewhere and be quiet. Yeah. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And the judge said it. But, it is what it is. That's, 2020 hindsight. Water under the bridge. Done. Spilled milk, everything else. All the other, Yeah, I was cutting up the first couple of days. I was getting the attitude, man. They were making me mad.
Yeah.
But, yeah, because I cannot hide my facial expressions at all.
Me either, because that one hard roll eye where you won't see you will see the whites of my eyes. You won't see
the exactly. Look like I'm having a seizure.
That's how hard I was rolling my eyes. All right, people, because your girl here is almost down for the count, and I got to get up early.
And it's even later where I am, because remember, I'm an hour ahead of Pam, so it's 12:30 in the morning here. So I gotta get my beauty rest. I gotta preserve. I gotta preserve. Yeah, slapping or grabbing him. Yes. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. This was my first actual live broadcast. We had a decent amount of people in here. I appreciate you guys for actually staying up this late. There's 45 people in here now, I think. And that's a lot for this time of night. So I'm guessing some of y'all are either West Coast or in London, waking up early in the morning. But thank you guys. And I'll try to do this again now that I know how to and not screw it up. I'll try to do this again soon. Or if Pam has a show you want me to come on, Dre, anybody, I'm always here. And I'll just piggyback on y'all. But good night. Thank you. Thank you, Pam.
I'm gonna stay on so that it'll upload. So yeah, because we got to stay on.
All right. So I just hit end stream, right?
Correct.
Good night, y'all. Bye-bye.